little shoes and walk among the groups of two. It's not ideal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and hit a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Yeah, I'm not looking for a windswept view. Our change has changed. Nothing's new. I've had new song. That blues. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. If I know what we'll do wrong, I'd take this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Rebellious 1776. My name is Lynn Hurley, and I am here with you to critique, criticize, and fact check our nation's politicians in real time. We love watching a feisty congressional hearing around here because we want to know just what those sneaky little politicians are saying and what they're doing, more importantly, with our tax dollars. If you know someone else would like to know that information as well, please feel free to share the love and share the show with them. Bring more in. Let's all watch these hearings together. We need to make sure we keep them in check. And then when you're done with that, just sit back, grab yourself a snack and a drink. And if you're with us live, please join us in the chat as we always have fun watching our nation's finest in action. And if you do like talking all things politics, why not go ahead and just hit that subscribe button? Give it a try. It's not going to hurt you. Ring the little bell. Make sure you check all for your notifications so you never miss a show coming up. How are you all today? Hey, everybody, so excited to see you. So, today is a little bit different because we are actually going to be doing two hearings in one today. Um, and they kind of sort of go together. They're both Homeland Security, the House Homeland Security Committee. One is about Iran and one is about weapons of mass destruction, but both are fairly short. They're both around the 1 hour mark. I think the one with the weapons of mass destruction is just a tad longer. It might be closer to like an hour and 20 minutes or so, but both relatively short for a congressional hearing. So I thought let's just get them both done in one. Why not, right? So because we got a lot to catch up on. There's still gonna be more. But anyways, I thought let's do that. So why don't we're gonna start with the Iran one. Let me see if I can find the full title for you. Examining the current status of Iran's axis of resistance and the implications for homeland security and US interests. And this one it's got four witnesses, so it should be a good one. So let me get that started for you. And as always, let me know how the sound is once I have it up and going. And these were from last week, just a reminder. They are on a break right now, or at least a break from doing hearings. Let's see, where are we? Here we go. All right, let me know how the sound is, guys.
The Committee on Homeland Security will come to order, and without objection, the chair may declare the committee in recess at any point. Before I get started this morning, I want to welcome a new member to our committee. Mr. Swazi, the gentleman from New York, is now joining us, and we're glad to have you on the committee. Were you on this committee when you were here before? Excellent. Excellent. We're glad to have you. Also, at 10:30 precisely, we're going to vote on a measure to go into classified setting, and we have to have that at 10:30, even if the witness testimony here in the open session lasts beyond 10:30. So right at 10:30, we'll stop and vote and then continue. The purpose of this hearing is to receive testimony on the full scale, scope, and pace of threats posed to the homeland by Iran's proxy forces, and I now recognize myself for an opening statement. The Islamic Republic of Iran presents a clear and present danger to the United States homeland and our allies. Last October, the committee heard testimony from a variety of witnesses that highlighted the national security threats posed by the Iranian regime. Two of the witnesses, former Ambassador Nathan Sales and Robert Greenway, discussed the Iranian regime's terror capabilities and the threats the regime poses to the United States. In addition, we heard the harrowing testimony of human rights activist Masih Alinejad, who had been targeted multiple times by the Iranian regime on U.S. soil. The story she shared opened the eyes of every member of this committee to the lengths that the regime will go to silence those who speak truth to the regime's brutality. Since our last hearing pertaining to the threats posed by Iran, the security threats from Iran and their proxies have metastasized even more. These threats include assassination plots on former Trump administration officials, targeting and attacking U.S. service members abroad, disrupting trade and commerce and endangering maritime security in the Red Sea, and attempting to coordinate external terror operations in Europe and South America. Today, we will focus our efforts on the threats posed by Iran's proxy networks, more commonly known as Iran's Axis of Resistance. The Axis of Resistance is a network of independent militia groups that Iran uses to enhance their power projection capabilities, provide plausible deniability for attacks conducted on behalf of the Iranian regime, and create instability for Iran's enemies in the region. Most notably, these terrorist proxies include Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and various Iraqi and Syrian militia groups. These proxies and their sympathizers are present in countries such as Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. In exchange for these groups' support and actions, they receive significant financial backing, material support, and training from the Iranian regime. Although we regularly hear about these groups' activities in the Middle East, their operations are not confined solely to that region. Hezbollah, arguably the most powerful proxy within the Axis of Resistance, has spent decades building the infrastructure needed to carry out its agenda in all parts of the world. As FBI Director Wray testified before the committee last November, and I quote, "The arrests of individuals in the United States allegedly linked to Hezbollah's main overseas terrorist arm and their intelligence collection and procurement efforts demonstrate Hezbollah's interests in long-term contingency planning activities here in our homeland," end quote. In addition, this terrorist organization has conducted operations throughout Europe and South America and has extensive ties to Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and his authoritarian regime. Lastly, Hezbollah has also engaged in narcotics, weapons, and human trafficking, as well as money laundering for authoritarian regimes, transnational criminal organizations, and other terror networks. The Houthis, a Yemeni militia group, has been a longtime proxy for the Iranian regime. The Houthis have conducted operations that target U.S. partners in the Persian Gulf, such as Saudi Arabia. These attacks on one of our greatest allies in the Middle East have shown evidence that Iran has provided the Houthis with unmanned aerial vehicles equipped with explosives and long-range missiles. These weapons have not only advanced Iran's interest in the region, but have also helped the regime test weapon systems before fielding their capabilities elsewhere. Recently, the Houthis targeted Western commercial shipping with anti-ship missiles. These attacks have not only killed innocent commercial sailors, but have created significant delays in supply chains that will eventually cause the price of goods to rise. Sadly, the world is familiar with the dangers that Hamas poses. Against Israel on October 7th demonstrates this group is committed to carry out its hateful agenda at any cost, and that Iran is dedicated to bankrolling the organization's quest to destroy Israel and the West. Hamas's reach is not limited to the Gaza Strip and Israel. In December of last year, German authorities detained 4 individuals with ties to Hamas for plotting attacks on Jewish institutions in Europe. Their orders came from Hamas leaders in Lebanon. As mentioned earlier, these threats are not localized. What happens in someone else's backyard will eventually make its way to our own. We must acknowledge that the axis of resistance is committed to destroying Israel and the West. They've shown the intent to conduct operations abroad and have demonstrated a willingness to do so here in the United States. These groups have also exploited conflicts via net news outlets and online communications to call on their supporters located in the United States to carry out attacks. I hope that today's hearing will give members of this committee the opportunity to fully examine these terror groups and the current status of the threats they pose to the homeland and U.S. interests. We have circulated this proceedings in advance and have coordinated with the minority, but I want to reiterate so all of our members are aware. After the ranking member statement, we're going to hear opening statements from our witnesses, and then there will be a vote to move into a closed session. We have a space set aside in the SCIF at HVC 301, and we will go over there with the goal of learning as much from our witnesses on this topic as possible. I look forward to our witnesses' testimony today, and I want to thank them all for being here.
I haven't watched this
I now
yet.
recognize the ranking
I hope
member, the
they
gentleman from
least
Mississippi,
have
Mr. Thompson,
A
for his
virtually
opening statement.
public hearing for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to our witnesses. I look forward to your testimony. I want to first welcome Representative Swazi of New York to the committee. We're pleased to have you join us and look forward to working with you on many issues that come before this committee. Even if you're from New York, we're going to welcome you to the committee. It's been more than 5 months since the horrific terrorist attack by Iranian-backed Hamas against Israel, which left more than 1,100 people dead. Still today, Hamas is holding an estimated 130 Israelis, including dual U.S. citizens, hostage. That deadly October 7th attack caused a war that has claimed tens of thousands of lives, including innocent civilians and children, both in Israel and Gaza. Beyond the war in Gaza, Hamas' deadly attack has begun to spill over and destabilize regional peace and global economic security. We've seen Lebanese Hezbollah, also backed by the Iranian regime, launch attacks against Israel since October 7th, killing a dozen Israeli soldiers and 6 civilians. And just a few days ago, it was publicly reported that the head of Iran's Quds force met with Lebanese Hezbollah and Hezbollah's leaders to the Iranian regime that the terrorist group is willing to fight Israel on its own without pulling in Iranian armed forces. That should trouble us all. Moreover, Houthis in Yemen have repeatedly attacked commercial shipping, demonstrating how the United States and our allies are threatened by Iranian-backed terrorist groups. The Houthis have also claimed responsibilities for attacking the U.S. Navy. While the claims have been refuted by U.S. defense officials, it shed light on the group's terrorism-related aspirations. Today's hearing is an opportunity for the committee to hear from national security agencies in a closed setting about the threat Iranian-backed terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis pose to the homeland and to U.S. interests worldwide. As I said in the immediate aftermath of the heinous attacks on October 7th, the United States condemns Hamas's actions. We also keep the innocent civilians in Gaza who have died in our prayers and call for lasting peace in the region. Unfortunately, as the administration has worked tirelessly to support Israel, bringing Americans home from the conflict zone, prevent a wider war in the region, and address humanitarian crisis in Gaza, House Republicans have absolutely refused to provide Israel with the resources they need to push back the threats of terrorists and terroristic regimes. Republican leaders are also refusing to work with Democrats to provide humanitarian relief for civilians in Gaza. Now, while I'm pleased that an apparent deal has been reached to fund the government, it is shameful that more than 5 months into fiscal year 2024, House Republicans' refusal to govern has us once again on the precipice of a partial government shutdown. If House Republicans do not put politics aside and pass the agreed upon spending packages, all 4 of the witnesses testifying before us today are facing the shuttering of their agencies. This is a do-nothing Republican majority. Although I'm glad that we have an opportunity today to better understand the current threat posed by Iranian-backed terrorist group, I have zero faith that my Republican colleagues will actually do anything meaningful about it when they leave this room. Even Republican members have acknowledged how dysfunctional Congress has become under their own party's leadership. I cannot believe I'm agreeing with Congressman Andy Biggs, but I agree with his characterization of this Republican majority. It's embarrassing. Republican dysfunction is a threat to the peace and stability around the world because under this so-called leadership, Congress cannot even come to the aids of its allies. There's much to be done as Iran and other adversaries like Russia, North Korea, and China continue to be a threat to the United States. I hope that today's hearing, particularly as we are receiving information in a classified setting, will serve as a turning point. I hope that Republicans will get serious about addressing the threats that this country faces. It's time that we finally focus our energy on helping Israel and other allies stand against evil. And we must help provide much needed humanitarian aid to the Palestinian civilians. I thank the panel for joining us today, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record, and I am pleased to have a very important panel of witnesses for us today. And I ask that our witnesses please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. I would now like to formally introduce our witnesses. Mr. James Dunlap serves as the Deputy Undersecretary for Analysis within the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, where he oversees a staff of 250 personnel and generates all of DHS's finished intel products for a wide range of customers. Prior to his appointment as Deputy Undersecretary, Mr. Dunlap served as the Executive Director of INA's Counterterrorism Center, where he oversaw all aspects of INA's counterterrorism analysis and represented DHS as the senior INA counterterrorism intelligence official within the intelligence community and DHS intelligence enterprise. Mr. Robert Wells serves as the Assistant Director of the Counterterrorism Division within the FBI. He has served in a variety of roles throughout his career and has served as the Assistant Director since 2022. Ms. Carrie Thompson serves as the Chief of Intelligence for the Drug Enforcement Agency. In her role, she serves as a strategic advisor to the DEA Administrator on intelligence matters and works daily to achieve DEA mission goals. Ambassador Elizabeth Richard serves as the Coordinator for Counterterrorism with the rank and status of Ambassador at Large, leading the State Department's Counterterrorism Bureau and serving as the Principal Advisor to the Secretary of State on international counterterrorism matters. Ambassador Richard also oversees U.S. engagement in the global coalition to defeat ISIS. Prior to her current role, she served as the U.S. Ambassador to the Lebanese Republic from 2016 until 2020. I thank all the witnesses for being here today, and I now recognize Mr. Dunlap for 5 minutes of to summarize his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Green, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of the committee. As noted, my name is James Dunlap, and I serve as the Deputy Undersecretary for Analysis within the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis. And in that capacity, I have the honor of representing the almost 1,000 dedicated government and contractor professionals I work with every day to generate all of DHS INA's intelligence products for the full range of our customers, including the President and senior national security staff, the Secretary of the Department and senior leaders within DHS, and our federal, state, local, territorial, tribal, and private sector security partners. INA's analytic expertise includes specialties in counterterrorism and cyber threats to our nation's critical infrastructure, transborder security and transnational organized crime, nation-state economic, and counterintelligence threats. Iran's so-called axis of resistance, or its network of proxies in the Middle East, poses a variety of threats to the United States and to Homeland Security. While correctly associated in the minds of many as a state sponsor of terrorism, Iran poses a threat to the United States from a variety of threat vectors, and it's on these vectors that I'll begin my remarks today. Here at INA, the work of our analysts examining the threats from Iran span all 4 of our analytics centers. A key part of our mission in INA is to build the capacity of our state, local, territorial, tribal, and private sector partners to react to and prevent threats from developing in their own jurisdictions. And as such, we strive to publish intelligence on this critical threat at the secret level and below. And indeed, with regard to many of the threat vectors I will discuss, we have been successful publishing at the unclassified for official use only level to maximize readership among our authorized stakeholders. Turning to cyber threats, INA works routinely with the Department's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, to publish intelligence on the cyber threat from Iran, which continues to pose a threat to U.S. systems, networks, and information. Iranian government cyber actors employ a variety of tactics, techniques, and procedures, including social engineering, using easily accessible scanning and computer hacking tools, and exploiting publicly known software and hardware vulnerabilities to conduct cyber espionage operations targeting the United States governments and the defense industry and to disrupt critical infrastructure. The Israel-Hamas conflict shows how Iran uses cyber operations to respond to geopolitical events while attempting to maintain plausible deniability. In November 2023, Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC-affiliated cyber actors posing as a criminal hacktivist group called the Cyber Avengers defaced Israeli-manufactured operational technology devices in the United States, specifically devices in water and wastewater systems and other critical infrastructure sector entities. While the attacks did not result in disruption of services or impact public health, they are demonstrative of the Iranian regime and its proxies' desires to target our citizens here in the United States. INA also works with our interagency partners to produce intelligence on Iran's efforts to target dissidents here in the homeland and abroad. Iran continues to conduct transnational repression activities within the homeland against anti-regime critics. Tactics used in the past to target dissidents include assassination attempts, digital threats and harassment, family intimidation, spyware, and unlawful detention. Iran has targeted Iranian dissidents in the United States to suppress anti-regime protests and calls for social and political reform in Iran. Notably, in January 2024, the United States Department of Justice indicted 1 Iranian and 2 Canadian nationals in a murder-for-hire scheme consistent with these tactics. Turning finally to terrorism, INA works regularly with our partners at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the National Counterterrorism Center, and other agencies to assess the counterterrorism threat from Iran and its proxies, including Lebanese Hezbollah.
I have had the privilege of being a
INA
DEA
assesses
intelligence
that
research
Iran will
specialist for nearly
remain the
26
primary
years.
state sponsor
I
of
started my
terrorism
DEA
and to do
career
its
in
efforts
Detroit,
to
Michigan,
advance plots
a network
against
of
individuals in the
partnerships and
United States.
alliances, so that we
Specifically,
all
Iran
present,
maintains
identify, and
its
neutralize
intent
the terrorist
to
threats
plot attacks
before
against
they
current
reach our
and former
borders,
U.S. government
including
officials
threats
in
from Iran
retaliation
and
for the
around that.
2020 death of IRGC Quds Force
To
Commander
conclude, I will
Qasem
emphasize that our
Soleimani.
counter-Iran efforts will endure
Iran
as
typically
long as
relies
this
on
threat
individuals with
endures.
pre-existing access
And
to
as
the United
always, there's
States
great deals.
for surveillance and lethal
I
plotting,
thank you again for
having
this hearing
previously
this
used
morning
all
and for
nationals, members of
Thank
criminal
you,
networks,
Ambassador, for your
private
testimony, and
investigators,
I know you
as
guys have
attempted
been working
plots
overtime
that do not
since
require
October.
international
Appreciate
travel
your efforts.
for
I
operatives.
also would like to ask a favor. Would you please tell Ambassador?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to appear here today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlop. I now recognize Mr. Wells for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Good morning, Chairman Green, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm honored to represent thousands of men and women in the FBI who tackle some of the most complex terrorism threats here in the United States and throughout the world. Thank you for inviting me to join you this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about our current threat environment, specifically as it relates to Iran and its proxies. As I'm sure you've heard from Director Wray, we are currently in a heightened terrorism threat environment. Since the Hamas attack against Israel, we've seen almost every major terrorist organization in the world, including Al-Qaeda, AQAP, and ISIS, call for terrorist attacks against the United States. We've also seen an uptick in threats against the Jewish community here in the U.S. and abroad. We remain concerned about threats from lone actors or small cells radicalized to violence online. In addition, we are very focused on the threat posed by the more traditional foreign terrorist organizations and the state-sponsored terrorism threat from Iran. Iran continues to plot attacks against former government officials in retaliation for the death of IRGC Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani. They also have continued to provide support to their proxies and terrorist organizations throughout the world, to include Lebanese Hezbollah. The FBI believes Iran is capable of a variety of attack options against U.S. targets, to include cyber operations intended to sabotage public and private infrastructure, and targeted assassinations of individuals who are deemed to be a threat to the regime or its stability. The FBI continues to use intelligence to identify threats related to Iran's lethal capabilities targeting U.S. persons. We work closely with other U.S. government agencies and foreign partners to address the threat to U.S. interests from Iran and its proxies. There have been several examples of Iran's intention to carry out lethal attacks in the United States. In 2022, an Iranian Quds Force officer, Shahram Parsafi, was charged related to his attempt to arrange the murder of former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Parsafi attempted to pay individuals in the United States $300,000 to carry out the murder in the Washington, D.C. area. Thankfully, Parsafi attempted to pay one of our confidential human sources to carry out the attack. This incredible investigative work by our Washington field office resulted in charges against Parsafi. Even though Parsafi remains at large abroad, this investigation highlighted Iran's incredibly bold plot to murder a former U.S. government official. In 2023, 3 members of an Eastern European criminal organization were charged for plotting the murder of a U.S. citizen who has been targeted by the government of Iran for speaking out against the regime's human rights abuses. The victim was targeted for exercising the rights to which every American citizen is entitled. An attempted assassination on U.S. soil shows how far Iranian actors are willing to go to silence their critics. These brazen attempted attacks by Iran are not new. You may also recall that in September 2011, Mansar al-Babsiar was arrested for plotting to murder the Saudi ambassador to the United States on U.S. soil. This plot was directed and approved by the IRGC Quds Force. As I just described, it is clear the Iranians are determined to carry out attacks in the United States whether it be to avenge the death of Soleimani, to silence one of their critics, or to kill the ambassador of an ally nation. I would also like to highlight an example of Iranian efforts to support terrorist activities overseas. In February 2024, 4 foreign nationals were intercepted by a U.S. military vessel during their alleged transportation of suspected Iranian-made weapon parts to Houthi rebel forces in Yemen. These individuals were recently brought to the United States to face charges. Tragically, 2 Navy SEALs lost their lives in the pursuit of this mission. The disruption of these individuals prevented Iranian-made weapons parts from getting into the hands of the Houthis, who could have used these weapons to target U.S. forces. The persistent threat from Iran came into sharper focus following the October 7th Hamas attack. Despite their praise for the attack and threat to join the conflict should Israel invade Gaza, Iran will likely still rely on their proxy networks to action retaliatory attacks focused in the region. We also assess that Iran IRGC will continue to provide training, weapons, and financial support to Hamas. The FBI remains concerned Hezbollah, Iran's primary strategic partner, could conduct retaliatory attacks against former U.S. officials, not only overseas, but also in the U.S. Since its inception in 1982, Hezbollah has been involved in numerous anti-U.S. terrorist attacks. Historically, they have sent operatives to build terrorist infrastructure worldwide and are likely to continue conducting intelligence collection, financial activities, and procurement efforts. In summary, the threat from Iran and its proxies remains persistent, and the FBI continues to engage with our partners to ensure protection of the American people and U.S. interests, both at home and abroad. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And we are now going to do that vote that we spoke about. I now recognize the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Guest, for the purpose of offering a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the hearing be closed to the public under Rule 11, Clause 2G for member questioning because disclosure of testimony, evidence, or other matters would endanger national security or compromise sensitive law enforcement information.
The motion is non-debatable and a recorded vote is mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Well, I looked ahead, and apparently they make it classified. So what's the point of having it? At least the intro. They didn't even let 2 people finish their intros. So I think they come back and let them read their intros, and then they go classify. That's what it looks like. Anyway, that's pretty silly. So unfortunately, it's classified. We can't see the rest of it. But isn't that interesting? That tells us there definitely is quite a lot going on with Iran that we can't watch the rest of it. So, alrighty then. The peasants get kicked out. But let me pull up the other hearing we're going to watch anyway. Luckily, we had 2 scheduled for today. So, here we go. And let me get it.
The Committee on Homeland Security, Subcommittee on Emergency Management and Technology will come to order. The purpose of this hearing is to provide members the opportunity to evaluate the work of DHS's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office and the Office of Health Security to assess their respective roles in preventing, mitigating, and responding to chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Today, the Subcommittee on Emergency Management and Technology will review the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office and the Office of Health Security and examine their efforts to secure this great nation from weapons of mass destruction. I'd like to welcome our witnesses. Thank you for your work to protect this great nation from chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. We look forward to hearing from each of you. The Department of Homeland Security was created following the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, and brought together 22 federal agencies to coordinate and streamline efforts to protect our homeland. Shortly after the Twin Towers collapsed, a series of letters laced with anthrax were sent to congressional office buildings, news outlets, and postal facilities, killing 5 Americans and injuring 17. The 2001 anthrax attacks highlighted the means to which bad actors will go to terrorize innocent people and the need for the U.S. investment in CBRN security and defense. 23 years later, the risk of biological terrorism and weapons of mass destruction has not gone away. Recognizing the need to streamline and prioritize countering CBRN threats, the CWMD office was established in 2017 and authorized by Congress and President Trump in 2018. The mission of the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office is to reduce vulnerability and protect American cities from a WMD attack by supporting operational partners on the ground. For example, CWMD's Securing the Cities program has equipped state and local agencies with nearly 48,000 items and pieces of equipment with detection and deterrence capabilities to protect communities across this country from radiological threats. In October 2023, a Houston police officer discovered dangerous levels of radiation in a metal scrapyard after his STC-provided personal radiation detector detected radiation during his commute to work. The hazardous material was identified and safely removed. These capabilities are critical for safeguarding this great homeland. Last July, I attended the Securing the Cities annual conference, where emergency managers from across the country gathered for training and coordination. I was grateful to attend and proud of STC's work to fortify a network of state, local, and federal partners that are committed to defending the United States of America from a potentially catastrophic nuclear or radiological attack. In October, CWMD held a Chem Prep program in Nassau County to review local chemical incident-related concerns, gaps, and vulnerabilities to discuss potential opportunities to optimize local preparedness. I was very pleased with the local outreach and support to first responders on Long Island, the same island that members of this committee on both sides of the aisle, myself, Congressman Lalotta, Congressman Garbarino, and now Congressman Swazi represent. With numerous bad actors and threats confronting our nation, CWMD has provided U.S. Customs and Border Protection with radiation portal monitors to scan cargo for potential threats. While the CWMD office plays an essential role in equipping state and local partners with equipment and training to counter CBRN threats, there are opportunities to improve the effectiveness of this office. Although the office was established to streamline internal DHS operations and coordinations with states and localities, many reorganizations have taken place, and workplace morale has consistently received low rankings by CWMD office personnel. When the Department of Homeland Security Act was passed in 2002, Section 872 allowed the Secretary to reorganize, establish, or consolidate operations within the department. In 2022, the Secretary used this authority to reallocate some health security and biosecurity functions to the newly created Office of Health Security. Less than 5 years since the Office of Health Affairs was reorganized into CWMD. Such constant restructuring can be confusing and frustrating for employees and stakeholders. I'm looking forward to learning more about the Office of Health Security, the benefit of his move out of CWMD, and differentiating between the biodefense work of OHS with that of CWMD. I am also eager to hear an update on CWMD's BioWatch program, which is a monitoring system that collects and tests air samples for biological agents that may be used in a bioterrorism attack. This program has not kept pace with technological advancements since it was first created in response to the 2001 anthrax attacks, and requires 12 to 36 hours before successfully verifying a biological agent and warning the public. In 2019, DHS began a major acquisition program, Biological Detection for the 21st Century, BD21, to move toward the next generation of national biodetection. BD21 was intended to address some of BioWatch's limitations, including significantly shortening its time to detect. However, it seems that BD21 has been abandoned. The President's fiscal year 2025 budget request refers to the program as, quote, obsolete, and states that CWMD will transition into a new, quote, environmental biodetection capability development and maturation project. I would like to understand how this new project will be different. Ultimately, I hope that CWMD is on a fast track to finally obtaining the biological technology that America needs. Despite the obstacles the CWMD office has faced, I believe that we should work together to remedy these challenges and to help the office succeed in its mission of enabling operational partners in preventing WMDs from ever harming this great country. That is also why I was proud to introduce HR 3224, a bill to extend the authorization of this office, and I urge my colleagues in the Senate to take up this bill immediately. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses on the opportunities and challenges confronting the CWMD office, as well as the Office of Health Security. Thank you all for this work in this field and for your commitment to this country. I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman, and my good friend from Louisiana, Mr. Carter, for his opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And good afternoon to our panel experts. I want to thank the witnesses for being here today to discuss the importance of countering weapons of mass destruction and the Office of Health Security. CWMD and OHS plays a critical role in fortifying our nation's defense against threats that can pose considerable harm to our communities. CWMD improves our nation's capability to plan for, detect, and guard against chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. OHS is the central office that serves as the principal medical, workforce health and safety, and public health authority for some 260,000 Department of Homeland Security employees. Pursuant to CWMD Act of 2018, the office was set to sunset in December 21st, 2023, but the sunset was subsequently extended, and now it's set to expire when the continuing resolution expires, which is on this Friday. I want to thank my friend and Chairman D'Esposito for working in a bipartisan manner in front to reauthorize CWMD. I'm proud to co-sponsor his bill, HR 3324, the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Extension Act of 2023. As authorizers, we should do our part to make sure that all programs and offices have support, and there is no question as to whether this office or any other office that protects the nation from threats has an uncertain future. We should always, our number one job is to make sure that we properly fund and provide the resources to keep America safe. Notwithstanding whatever party or philosophical views we may have, this is in fact one of the most significant bipartisan issues that we have to undertake. CWMD operates critical programs like securing the city's STC, which provides 14 local governments, including my hometown. I was proud to be the lead sponsor on this bill, and I know, Ms. Callahan, that you had the opportunity to visit New Orleans to do a walkthrough, so I hope you had a chance to enjoy the weather, the food, and of course, the warm hearts of the people of New Orleans. My hometown, with detection equipment, training, exercise support, operational and technical subject matter expertise, and programmatic support is so critically important to making sure that things like the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras and high populated activities are safe, not just in New Orleans, but across the country and certainly in the other 14 cities that are part of the STC. STC is working with New Orleans to prepare for the Super Bowl. We continue to support important events like Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, Sugar Bowl, any other reason. We have millions and millions of people who visit New Orleans for their the hospitality and the wonderful access to transportation and our world-class convention center. Shameless plug there, but we're also obviously very excited about having this extra barrier of protection because we know the threats are in fact real. I introduced HR 443, the Securing the Cities Improvement Act, which passed the House earlier this month. My bill will help cities build and maintain their security capabilities against nuclear or radiological threats. I look forward to discussing the STC's impacts on domestic preparedness. While CWMD is doing great work, One concern that I have seen highlighted repeatedly in the Partnership for Public Service and the Government Accountability Office, GAO, report is internal morale issues. One GAO reports highlighted the merger of predecessor offices under CWMD caused low morale and that the office's missions were unclear under the new structure. Some employees had difficulty understanding how their missions should align under the new structure. However, a more recent GAO report has highlighted that CWMD is working on its workforce morale. I want to thank GAO for their work on helping the committee understand how this new office is functioning. I look forward to hearing today from CWMD how you have improved your workforce morale. OHS is also an integral part of the department and was formerly part of CWMD until 2022. As a separate component, OHS optimizes the health, wellness, and safety of the DHS workforce and enhances efforts to counter health threats that pose risk to our nation. In recent years, they have managed medical and public health initiatives to help thousands of people resettling in the United States through Operations Allies Welcome and Uniting for Ukraine. It is imperative to recognize and support the critical work carried out by both CWMD, and OHS in securing our homeland. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today regarding the recent fiscal year 2025 budget request and any additional concerns and successes the office would like to discuss. We're here to serve. We're here to hear from you. We're here to determine how we as a committee can do more to make sure that your jobs are easier to do and that you're funded to do the things that you are constitutionally mandated to do, and that is to make sure that we have a safe and wholesome community. So with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Other members of the subcommittee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. I am pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this very important topic critical to our national security. I ask that our witnesses please rise and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. You may be seated. Thank you. I would now like to formally introduce our witnesses. The Honorable Mary Ellen Callahan serves as the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office. CWMD leads DHS efforts to safeguard the United States of America against chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. Previously, Ms. Callahan served as the Chief of Staff to the Deputy Secretary of the Department. Dr. Herbert Wolf is the Acting Chief Medical Officer and Acting Director of the Office of Health Security for DHS. He oversees the medical, public health, and workforce health and safety activities across the department. Prior to the establishment of OHS, he served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Health Security within CWMD. Dr. Tina Wan Sherman is a director in the Government Accountability's Office, Homeland Security, and Justice Team. She oversees work on the protection of the nation's critical infrastructure assets, the security of the United States transportation system, and additional equities within the Department of Homeland Security, including the CWMD office. I thank all the witnesses for taking the time and being here with us today. I now recognize Ms. Callahan for 5 minutes to summarize her opening statement.
Chairman D'Esposito, Ranking Member Carter, distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office and our efforts to safeguard the nation from chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats, also known as CBRN. The DHS CWMD office has a unique value proposition in the CBRN space. CWMD was created by Congress 5 years ago to be a single point of CBRN expertise within DHS. We are the hub for the department's Weapons of Mass Destruction, or WMD, CBRN activities, providing coordination, strategy and policy guidance, intelligence analysis, operational support, and researching technologies. With your support, the creation of an office solely focused on CBRN threats streamlined the ability of DHS to resource and execute this critical mission. My priorities for the office include focusing on the outstanding CWMD employees and bolstering our relationships with our important state, local, and federal partners. I've been leading CWMD for 8 months. The workforce at CWMD is among the most talented, mission-focused, and knowledgeable workforces I have ever experienced. At its founding, however, the office faced challenges, including frequent leadership changes, faltering morale, and staff turnover. Therefore, my first priority at CWMD is to further build a collaborative, safe, and productive work environment. The CWMD team deserves this. With that said, the uncertainty around CWMD's future has had a devastating effect on the morale and retention of the office's highly skilled and in-demand workforce. My employee morale and well-being plan has 3 elements. First, we've been encouraging professional development, including individual development plans and professional training. We've just launched a mentoring program where I am among the mentors. Second, we are working to better integrate the activities of each of the 5 directorates to make sure that the CWMD staff has complete awareness of the office missions. As a result of education and communication, I've seen better synergies and coordination between and among the directorates, which leads to a more engaged workforce. Third, we are looking for ways to connect with our colleagues on a more personal note. We host quarterly in-person get-togethers and are establishing interest groups. I hold weekly office hours to engage with the workforce one-on-one. All of these actions are playing a significant role in improving CWMD's employee morale. However, without enduring reauthorization, CWMD will likely face steady attrition. In addition to better integrating my office, I'm committed to strengthening our assistance to and our relationship with our stakeholders, including our state, local, and federal partners. CWMD has integrated the prevention and detection of all CBRN threats with our DHS partners through training, equipment, and technical assistance to CBP, HSI, TSA, Coast Guard, and Secret Service. We also serve as a peer organization to CISA and FEMA in the life cycle of CBRN incident management. We, of course, work seamlessly with our colleagues at the Office of Health Security on public health and biological threats. I'm working to further integrate the operational support of all of these components with our planning, research, and support work at CWMD. Even with all this federal activity, the most unique role CWMD plays in the CBRN ecosystem is our relationship with state and locals. CWMD provides radiological and nuclear detection capabilities in 14 high-risk regions in the U.S. through the Securing the City programs. Those regions are preparing to work seamlessly with the FBI and the Department of Energy in the event of an incident. On Monday, as I was in New Orleans, along with Representative Carter's team and the FBI and DOE, in order to see a portion of the CBRN preparation for the 2025 Super Bowl, along with city and state teams. Last year, Securing the City trained over 14,000 state and local first responders. Our BioWatch program is in over 30 jurisdictions. We are working to update our environmental biodetection capabilities, all while providing steady state coverage for these jurisdictions. Between Securing the City and BioWatch, CWMD provides steady state detection for 40% of the population. For the rest of the country, our mobile detection deployment team was deployed 188 times last year, providing support in 48 states, 2 territories, and 1 tribal unit. All of this work with our stakeholders is intended to prepare and promote collective readiness and to safeguard the nation from CBRN threats in the homeland. Chairman, Ranking Member, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan, and thank you for your work. I now recognize Dr. Wolf for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Chairman D'Esposito, Ranking Member Carter, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today about the great work being done by the dedicated personnel of the Office of Health Security, or OHS. It's truly an honor to be here today to talk about the work that we are doing. I have served as the acting chief medical officer and acting director since January of 2023, and prior to that as the deputy chief medical officer and deputy director since the office creation in 2022. I joined the department in 2019 after nearly 30 years of federal public service. The challenges of the past 5 years exemplify how nearly every Homeland Security threat has a health security nexus. From acts of terror to a global pandemic, surges in migration, cyber attacks directed at critical infrastructure, including healthcare, natural disasters across the country to international response efforts spanning nearly every continent, DHS is at the center of it all and often operating as the lead federal agency. To answer the enduring health security challenges we face, DHS established OHS in July of 2022 to serve as the principal medical, workforce health and safety, and public health authority for DHS. The dedication of our staff and our earnest response to these challenges reflect the earnest or enduring impact, hope, and vision of OHS, one that is grounded in agility, subject matter and technical expertise, deep relationships with our interagency and state and local partners, and an unwavering commitment to the physical and mental health resiliency of our workforce in the nation. Today, OHS positions the department to have a proactive, unified, and robust response to the ever-evolving health security landscape. Health security is, after all, a core tenet of Homeland Security. The over 260,000 dedicated men, women, and working animals of the department work tirelessly to secure the nation from the many threats we face. The office that I'm privileged to lead, which is comprised of exceptionally talented medical, public health, and workforce health and safety experts, collaborates with leaders from across the department, the interagency, and with our state and local partners to strengthen the nation's health security while providing for a safer and healthier DHS workforce. Health, after all, is our greatest possession, and I'm proud to serve alongside many who are leading and championing the physical, mental, and work-life health of the DHS workforce, including those on the front line. Those in the workforce that we serve include 90,000 frontline law enforcement officers and agents, 44,000 U.S. Coast Guard uniformed members, 4,000 EMTs and paramedics, 640 United States Public Health Service Commission Corps officers, 60,000 civilian employees who are veterans, and 4,000 four-legged employees of the department. We also provide leadership and oversight of DHS medical and public health policy, standards of care, and healthcare services provided to non-citizens, ensuring the delivery of high-quality care to those in our custody. I stand in awe and am humbled by the commitment of my OHS colleagues. I've had the privilege to lead them as we mobilize to stand up our domestic public health measures in response to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, to deploy to the southwest border to provide technical public health assistance and implementation of care improvement actions, to build on the lessons learned from Operation Allies Welcome, to work tirelessly with our partners on the Food Security is Homeland Security mission, to plan for and enable better preparedness and response to the health and medical impacts of CBRN, to ensure we optimize mental health and wellness resources for our workforce, to leverage research and development and academic partners to develop approaches to known and novel health threats, to harness technology to provide high-quality data and analysis to program managers and decision makers, and last but not least, to assist our EMTs and paramedics on missions around the United States, and so much more. Chairman, ranking member, and members of the subcommittee, on behalf of the incredible, talented, and dedicated team at OHS that works at the intersection of health security and Homeland Security, as well as all the public health, medical, and workforce health and safety teammates across the department, we thank you for your support. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. I now recognize Dr. Sherman for 5 minutes to summarize her opening statement.
Chairman D'Esposito, Ranking Member Carter, member of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me today to speak on behalf of my agency, the U.S. Government Accountability Office. The intentional use of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons remain real-world threats for those domestically and abroad. The risks posed by those weapons are significant, and each one is unique in terms of their ability to be detected, prepared for, mitigated, and recovered from. 5 years into its existence, the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office carries out the difficult mission of enabling operational partners at the federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial levels to promote the readiness for and prevention of the use of weapons of mass destruction against the United States. The last time GAO testified about CWMD in front of this committee in 2021, we reported that the office needed to help integrate and coordinate the department's chemical defense activities. CWMD has efforts underway to identify and harmonize those activities across the department. This is even more critical given the stoppage in chemical security inspections resulting from the lapse in authorization for DHS's Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standards Program. We also told this committee that CWMD faced information gathering and collaboration challenges as part of the National Biosurveillance Integration Center. NBIC has since enhanced its ability to collect information using open source data, and most of the stakeholders we recently spoke with found value in its written products. However, NBIC could take additional steps to assess the support it provides to its FSLTT partners. At that time, we additionally highlighted continued problems with BD21, the acquisition program to replace the existing BioWatch early warning system, such as the technical readiness and feasibility of the technologies for the program, given the inherent limitations and uncertainties for use in biodetection. With the BD21 acquisition now canceled, CWMD will need to forge a new path forward to replace the 20-year-old BioWatch system still operating in major metropolitan areas nationwide. We also at the time shared with the subcommittee that the Securing the Cities program, which provides equipment and training for first responders, had not clearly communicated potential program changes to or address risks to sustain detection capabilities for the program. In the latest report GAO is issuing today, we found that CWMD has improved in these areas and recommended it better communicate expectations and measures to participants for how the office will assess them against their new implementation plan next fiscal year. Lastly, we reported in 2021 that CWMD's workforce had continued to experience low morale following the merger of its two predecessor components that held differing missions, expertise, and cultures. It has since also undergone another reorganization to establish the Office of Health Security, this all without permanent leadership. CWMD now has that leadership with Assistant Secretary Callahan and is continuing to take steps to strengthen employee engagement despite the uncertainty tied to CWMD's reauthorization. We remain hopeful that CWMD will remain responsive to GAO's recommendations as we continue to provide oversight support for the subcommittee and clearly demonstrate its effectiveness in meeting its mission across the range of threats it was established to address.
Thank you, Doctor. Members will be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning. An additional round of questioning may be called after all members have been recognized. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. My first set of questions is for Ms. Callahan. As I mentioned in my opening statement, Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002 allows the department to reorganize, establish, or consolidate operations. This authority was used to establish the CWMD office in 2017 and then used again by the Secretary to establish the Office of Health Security in 2022. In your opinion, have the CWMD and OHS office reorganizations been successful?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I believe both reorganizations have been successful. With regard to the CWMD office, in the first instance, that was subsequently was authorized in 2018. Bringing together all threats, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear, was crucial. It's important. It mirrors what other agencies are doing, and it brings together all elements to bear. It also helps support our operational components as well as our state and local stakeholders. With regard to the Office of Health Security, I'll defer to Dr. Wolf if he thinks it's a success.
That'd be great.
But I will say, I will say, I think that having the Office of Health Security outside of CWMD helped clarify several lanes. Obviously, they do public health, health security. We do biological threats. We work together seamlessly. Sometimes OHS takes the lead, sometimes we do. But I think getting the medical expertise outside of the office helps clarify the OHS's role within the department. Over to you, Dr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Chairman, related to the establishment of OHS, Prior to the establishment, when CWMD was created, it only took approximately half of the medical and public health folks in the department. The remaining folks that focused on the health of the workforce went to the management directorate under the chief human capital officer. As we progressed through the second and third year and then entered the pandemic, we learned that the medical and public health and workforce health and safety expertise was very small compared to a department that has 260,000 employees. So one of the great benefits of the OHS 872 was bringing together all the public health and medical activities of the department under one office and under one leadership.
And as we've heard, sometimes the workforce, the dedicated workforce that are affected by these changes, the morale has been not so great. It's been one of the things that we as a committee have wanted to address. So in addition to the morale, and I guess if you could just touch upon why you think that's a factor, what other challenges have we seen in the reorganization or the consolidation when decided by Secretary Mayorkas?
For health security?
It's really the same question for both of you.
Yep. The employee morale, as I mentioned, I have 3 tenets: work on professional development, work on understanding the mission and how you fit into that mission and how you can advance. And then third, getting to know people on a personal level to reestablish esprit de corps. I think those are important elements. I also think transparency is crucial. That is one of my philosophies. I have fortnightly town halls. I write a column every week in the bulletin. I try to be available. I have one-on-one offices to go and make sure they know what's going on and that we can be transparent. I will note my one last challenge is the threat of termination, what weighed heavily on us in the fall, and we can speak about that later.
Yeah, Chairman, one of the benefits we had at OHS is we got to do the 872 second after CWMD. And so one of the things we could do even prior to the establishment is use GAO best practices and learn from other federal reorganizations. So we have not had the same challenge when it comes to morale. Few things that we've done. One is employee engagement. We've done a monthly survey prior to the establishment. We continue that today. The second thing we've done is we do a monthly all hands. The last thing is our monthly pulse survey and the FEV scores, which is the first time in 2023 that OHS was its own office, mirror relatively good scores. Our employee engagement and our employee experience index is above 75. We've had greater than 90% of the surveys in FEVs had a score greater than 74%. And then lastly, in the FEV score, we had several that were above 90, and those I think are attributed to medical folks have a few core inherent missions. First, do no harm, and secondly, to help those that are in need. And so there was a real attrition in there for that. To your question on challenges, I think the one we continue to face is just the enduring mission of DHS and making sure that we communicate to the team that we've got several communities to serve, those in our custody, the workforce, and the nation as a whole.
All right, thank you, Doctor. My time has expired. I now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, I find it concerning that the uncertainty surrounding the reauthorization of CWMD, along with the reports of low morale, can be affecting staff retention and the effectiveness of CWMD's mission. Assistant Secretary Callahan, can you speak to how the reauthorization's uncertainty has impacted CWMD's employees and what long-term extension or sunset repeal would mean for your office?
Thank you, Ranking Member. The threat of termination for the office created a great deal of uncertainty. It also created a distraction in the office in the fall. I ended up losing 10% of my staff, which equaled over 380 years of CBRN experience, federal experience. That is a real loss. We are working quickly to replace them, but it would be difficult to recruit the talented and in-demand workforce to ask them to come and join when we have, again, the potential of a threat of termination in 2 years hence. Also, with regard to our state and local partners, they experienced and expressed to me anxiety about the threat of termination. And of course, several of them are working towards the 2026 World Cup. And when I was in Boston and in New York recently, both of them asked about termination and looking forward. It is a concern. It is weighing on us. And as I said, this is an incredibly talented and mission-focused office.
And it's unfair to ask anybody to work under these uncertain terms. We have experts that are recruited to go other places. The talent pool is particularly in specified areas like this, very thin. So we should always endeavor to give the security of our agencies the privilege and the authority to know that you will be able to continue to be funded and operated. I'm happy to hear that you say that. I know my colleagues are listening, and we will continue to endeavor to do just that, to fully fund and give you the security to be able to secure us.
Thank you.
CWMD, Securing the Cities STC program provides funds for 14 local governments to counter successful deployment of nuclear and radiological weapons in the U.S., including my hometown of New Orleans. However, the program is limited to high-risk urban areas designated by FEMA, which can create uncertainty for local governments participating in the program. As you know, I introduced H.R. 4403, the Securing the Cities Improvement Act, which will provide more stability for STC participants. I was pleased that the bill passed the House earlier this month. Assistant Secretary Callahan, could you explain why this bill is critical for the securing of cities and programs, more importantly?
Thank you, Representative. We support decoupling the securing the cities, high-risk urban areas from the FEMA designation of UASI because it's CWMD grants. We can evaluate the threats and the CBRN risks as we did with New Orleans, and we support having that flexibility to identify potentially new high-risk areas that may be included going forward.
Dr. Wolf, real quickly, are OHS and CWMD preparing for emerging biological threats? If so, how?
Ranking Member, thanks for the question. Certainly, I believe that we are more prepared today than we were several years ago, but challenges remain. CWMD and OHS share a great relationship and a partnership. Few of the areas where I would say that we have done great are looking at emerging threats and forecasting, but whether that is deliberative or whether that is unintentional. Secondary, we've done a great job in the biological realm is in the food, agriculture, and veterinary threat, both to food security as well as to the agriculture sector. Lastly, an area of concern that is shared across the federal interagency is we've got a very taxed and strained public health and medical workforce. Most of you know, hospitals run at almost capacity and run day to day on a tight operating budget. Post-COVID, we've learned that the health and medical workforce is resilient, but they're also vulnerable. And so one of the areas that I share as a challenge is being sure that we are prepared, investing in the workforce, so we're prepared for the next potential public health or biological incident.
Thank you, Dr. Sherman. I've got just a few seconds left, but I'd love you to, first of all, thank you all for your incredible service. What's your greatest fear? And what should we know as a committee to help you allay those fears?
When it comes to the countering of weapons of mass destruction in office? I think the main, I'm not sure if I characterize it as fear, but I think one area of concern, we'd like the office to continue to focus on demonstrating its effectiveness. There are a lot of activities and efforts underway, and the office has demonstrated.
Let me real quickly, if one thing kept you awake at night, one thing that we, as a member of Congress, can do, this committee more specifically, can do for you and your agency to make your life and our lives more safe. And Mr. Chairman, I'll yield after she answers.
All yours.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I have a single fear that I can communicate, but I definitely feel that CWMD in particular has an important mission, and we definitely want to make sure to continue it in support of the subcommittee, monitor its activities.
So you just had a blank check in front of you. You didn't fill it in.
Happy to speak further about the work that we've done in this particular office. I think one of the kind of main focuses we have is these threats are real, as I said in my opening statement, and we are concerned about how the federal government is taking steps across not only within the Homeland Security enterprise, but across the federal government and across nationwide to be able to help address those threats. And one of the challenges that we feel is experienced as a result is the fact that there needs to be, again, a coordination, a real understanding of the range of threats to make sure that there aren't any specific capability gaps that exist, as a result of the efforts that are underway. And we would like to continue to work to ensure that CWMD is helping to identify those gaps across the federal government as well as with SLTTs to be able to address those threats.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranking Member. And I just want to point out, really to Ms. Callahan's point, and I think to concerns of all of you, the bill that, my bill that came out of this committee and then passed full committee in a bipartisan fashion. So I think that shows the commitment that this committee and this subcommittee has to the work that you do. It was actually a 7-year extension. But due to the CBO score, we also have to be realistic in what we could actually, as a committee and a subcommittee, can get onto the floor and pass. So that's why we're at the 2-year number. But this committee and my bill, when it was originally drafted, did have a 7-year extension. And with that, I recognize my good friend and fellow New Yorker and Long Islander, Mr. Lillotta, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman D'Esposito, for your leadership and to our witnesses for being with us here today. Like Chairman D'Esposito, I am a proud New Yorker, a proud Long Islander, and I'm honored to represent the east end of Long Island. My district's about 50, 60 miles to the east of Manhattan, the heart of New York City. And this coming September 11th marks the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks in Lower Manhattan, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and here at our nation's capital. And after that day, we as a nation collectively vowed that we would never forget, that we would never allow another attack of that magnitude on American soil. However, Mr. Chairman, I'm becoming increasingly concerned that we are on the cusp of another major attack. And if we do not properly prepare, we could fail to prevent another 9/11. In fact, the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee back in December and warned Congress of another 9/11-like failure. During that hearing, he said, I quote, "I see blinking lights everywhere." And ask any New Yorker, we know what that means, and we'll tell you plain and simple that we're in trouble. And now, in addition to being a proud New Yorker, I'm a Navy veteran, the brother of a Marine, and I served this country in uniform with immense pride for 11 years. And I can tell you from that experience, the most effective way to thwart an adversary and protect an asset, especially our people, is through deterrence. The action of discouraging an action or an event by instilling doubt or fear into the consequences. Assistant Secretary Callahan, thanks so much for being here. As the Assistant Secretary for the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office, my first question is for you. It was only 5 years ago that the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office within the Department of Homeland Security was established. Do you believe that the office has served as a deterrent for our adversaries in attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction on U.S. soil since the office was created?
Representative, I do believe it has served as a deterrent, and the way it has done so is by pushing out training, equipment, and exercises to the state and local first responders. They're going to be the ones who are going to come across a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear threat, and getting training and technology in their hands is how that we can not only identify, but prepare and respond. Our mission is to prevent and detect and deter CBRN threats. And I think we're doing so with regard to our relationship with state and locals, also in Nassau County, as well as in Suffolk County, sir. And also with working with our operational components here in the Department of Homeland Security, and then working in the interagency with FBI and DOE. Yes, sir.
Great. And I know that Dr. Sherman resisted the temptation to answer the question about the blank checks. And then you referenced.
I'll write it.
You're going to get a shot at the same question then. How can you build on that success? In your answer just now, you said technology was a key part of what we ought to be focused on moving forward. Give Congress a sense of what else you think we ought to be leveraging, in technology and otherwise, to be able to build on the success of the last 5 years.
Sir, it's technology, training, and equipment and exercises, getting the knowledge out for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear threats, understanding how to respond, do the training and exercises that I witnessed in New Orleans just this week, because it's the first responders, it's those state and locals are going to be on the ground if indeed something happens. And we are working to get that knowledge out as far as we can. With regard to the check that I will write, the enduring reauthorization of the CWMD office is crucial to make sure that we can be that linchpin for the entire CWMD ecosystem.
Thank you. Appreciate your feedback. You know, this committee under Chairman D'Esposito's leadership has a strong bipartisan approach to how
We're
we
very grateful.
And we're going to continue that. We're committed to doing that.
Thank you.
I'm going to maybe go to a next round in the future, Mr. Chairman, so I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Lillotta. I now recognize, from Alabama, and first responder, Mr. Strong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. I appreciate our witnesses for being here to discuss the important work each of you are doing to secure our nation against weapons of mass destruction. As you all know, BioWatch is one of the programs used to carry out the mission of the CWMD office by collecting and testing air samples for biological agents likely to be used in an act of bioterrorism. As technology evolves, so do threats to our country. For example, increasing access and affordability of unmanned aircraft presents ample opportunities for bad actors to cause harm and hysteria in our communities. Now more than ever, we depend on efficiency and effectiveness of BioWatch. Unfortunately, this program is not operating like it should. From breakdowns to accurate information sharing to bureaucratic barriers and lagging procurements of biodetection technology, DHS has fallen dangerously behind. For this reason, I introduced the DHS Biodetection Improvement Act, which would direct DHS to use every tool in its disposal to develop an acquisition and procurement plan to meet the biodetection needs of the 21st century. The House passed this legislation earlier this month, and I urge my Senate colleagues to do the same. First, Assistant Secretary Callahan, to what extent is BioWatch an operational program given past findings of its inaccuracy in timely detection, and what plan exists for improving it?
Thank you, Representative Strong. BioWatch is the only biodetection capability that this nation has. It has existed. It is a stable and functional process. We are working on improving it and looking at technology and opportunities, but it is lab-based, lab-proven, and we've worked with over 30 jurisdictions to make sure that we have an appropriate baseline and security. BioWatch is reliable, sir.
Thank you. How long does it take from the moment a sensor registers a bioagent to when the data is shared with partners for response?
Yes, sir. The materials for BioWatch are collected either on a 12 or 24-hour basis and then are analyzed in the lab. From the time in the lab, it takes a few hours, somewhere between 2 and 4 hours, to identify whether or not there is aerosolized biological materials in the air.
12 to 24 hours, right?
That is for the collection time. Yes, sir.
Thank you. When dealing with the threats of bioterrorist attack, every minute matters, every second matters.
Yes, sir.
And the Chairman D'Esposito highlighted it can take up to 36 hours to get these results. How many times since the start of this program has there been a positive detection, and how many times has there been a false alarm?
In this room, sir, I cannot go into details, but I can talk about it in a different room if that would be happy to take that offline if that's okay.
Thank you. Dr. Sherman, thank you for your work on reports related to BioWatch. I understand that GAO has made multiple recommendations about changes that needs to be made to the acquisition and procurement process. Has DHS implemented any of those changes?
Yes, DHS has taken steps to better inform its acquisition process. And in fact, I think the result of BD21, the BD21 program being canceled, was informed in part by some of the questions that we had raised in prior work and recommendations that we had made regarding more informed decision-making during the acquisition process and not moving forward with that process and spending additional funds until there's really kind of clear evidence and documentation of effectiveness.
Thank you. Other than passing the DHS Biodetection Improvement Act, what is the biggest thing DHS can do right now to improve BioWatch in your judgment? What's the biggest thing they can do to improve biodetection?
I will say, I will just say biodetection is an incredibly challenging task. And, you know, we're talking about how long it takes to be able to capture a sample and test it and confirm results. You know, the extent to which there is a way to identify technologies that allow for increased efficiencies in those timeframes If those exist, then that is, that would be something that I think would result in a significant progress. But CWMD, given its current mission, should be actively considering, as it is, how to continue their focus in biodefense.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, you touched on it just a second. It is unique that you worked as a fire chief. I've been a fire chief, police, first responders. We know firsthand how critical that is, that we get that information. 40 years myself and 34 years as an emergency medical technician. So it's so critical to our first responders. And I thank each of you for what you do to get that information as fast as possible. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. And I recognize from Oklahoma, Mr. Keene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to ask Dr. Sherman, representing the GAO with a Homeland Security specialty, tell me, in terms of efficiency is something that GAO is respected for constantly analyzing. Where do you see resources being expended that the GAO would say maybe inefficient and could be otherwise allocated? I'm really interested in the concept of the electric grid and hardening our transformers. I'd like to hear if you think that we're being inefficient in some areas, and if some of those resources could be otherwise utilized to protect what I think is a very vulnerable grid.
Sure. So speaking to the acquisition piece, CWMD has gone through not only in the biodefense space, but also in the radiation detection space, several acquisitions that have resulted in cancellation. And I think I mentioned it before, that's actually not necessarily a bad thing, because if it comes to a decision point where the office or the department decides that they don't have enough information to move forward and to spend the taxpayer dollars for a particular program, that they should make a decision to not do that. So that is an area where I think the office has at least taken steps and demonstrated that the again, the kind of the efficiency piece is really critical in making sure that there isn't continued efforts over time and spending to be able to identify particular threats. I would also say one of the themes that we have throughout the CBRN space for CWMD is going back to the message about effectiveness, really understanding whether the programs and activities are working, whether the work that, in the case of securing the cities, the partners that are being carried out in the regions, having an understanding of whether or not the support that CWMD is providing, the money, the resources, is actually working and better protecting those regions across the country. And so I think that that is a way to really understand whether or not money is being well spent as it goes towards the various programs within CWMD.
Can you expound upon that? So the expenditure of funds going to localities, high population areas. How is GAO determining whether or not that is a good spend for the taxpayer? How do you run through how do you analyze that accurately?
Sure. So in the case of securing the cities, for example, last year, CWMD put out an implementation plan for its program, a new version of its implementation plan. And as part of that plan, the office was to collect information from the regional partners in terms of trainings, exercises, detections, efforts that they have made that have been tied to the resources that they've been provided to them. We have found that CWMD over time hasn't done as good of a job looking at that information, collecting that information, making sure that it's accurate through quarterly reporting requirements and others. And so in this report that we issued today, we made recommendations around making sure that it has better data, it has better information from those partners to be able to say, okay, you are successful in the efforts that you're carrying out, being able to implement this program, being able to be prepared as a first responder for detection efforts. And you should be able to continue forward and ideally obtain sustainment funding as a result of that.
So I want to, because I got 40 seconds left, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask in regards to the expenditure, and next year we'll come back and have a conversation as to whether or not those suggestions from GAO were implemented. What are your thoughts, Ms. Callahan, in regards to is there a better allocation of resources that may not be high population centers regarding our electric grid, the transformers? My understanding, there's some information floating around that says we have 20 transformers. If they were all hit at the same time, whether it's gunfire, an EMP, somebody walking up with a device that exploded, then we could bring down our entire electrical grid, shut down traffic, shut down cell phone utilization. Can you speak to that?
Sir, we agree with all of GAO's recommendations with regards to securing the cities. With regard to electrical grid, that would be my colleagues at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I know they have spent a great deal of time on that and are working on hardening that, but I'd have to defer to those colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKean. Ms. Callahan, as you mentioned in your testimony, CBRN threats present dynamic challenges to the nation's security. And quote, the risks are constantly evolving due to the evolution of technologies, quote. What steps has the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office taken to coordinate coordinate the threat with the intelligence community so that the agency might better understand the current threat environment?
Thank you, sir. As you may know, we have a dedicated intelligence shop just focused on CBRN threats. They do an annual report that we're happy to brief to you and to your staff, the CWMD Homeland Threat Assessment. We work very closely with our intelligence community colleagues. We also are having a fledgling relationship with the National Guard Bureau and their intelligence shop, again, to get that information out to the first responders, to the folks in the field, in the 57 different, for example, civil support teams. So trying to get that information out. We're also working with our colleagues, health security, among others, at analyzing the risk. So we've identified the threat, but we've also looked at the risk, which include the likelihood as well as the consequent and what the impact is. So we're trying to have a holistic view.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And what's your interaction regularly with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that our ports of entry, so that they have the information necessary to make sure that they can protect us as best they can?
Yep. Obviously, CBP is one of our biggest stakeholders. We support the radiation portal monitor, so almost 1,400 RPMs at the ports of entries. We also go and brief them on threats. We've done multiple trainings, not only at ports of entries, but also at the National Targeting Center for that as well.
Okay. Your testimony also speaks to chemical preparedness and chemical defense, and mentions the establishment of the DHS Chemical Coordination Group to, quote, meet the evolving threat for chemical attacks and incidents. How has the expiration of CIS's Chemical Facilities Anti-Terrorism Standards program affected our nation's chemical defense posture?
Yes, thank you, sir. The termination of CFAT's authorization, I know that's wrong phrasing, but the end of CFAT's authorization has, in my opinion, affected our chemical readiness with regard to identifying threats that would be in chemical facilities. CFATs and CWMD are siblings, and they work together closely, and we are missing them in this whole of government threat.
And I know we briefly touched upon this in my first round of questioning, but I think it's important because I think in a lot of federal agencies, especially when it comes to our enforcement agencies, Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol, Capitol Police, attrition and making sure that our workforce stays is a concern that we have. So in 2022, there was a ranking by best places to work, and the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office ranked 430 out of 432. 430 out of 432. CWMD has consistently has had low ratings. I know that we talked about this briefly, but I think it's extremely important. So you, I think, have had identified in some cases why morale is so low. Is there anything that you weren't able to share in the first round of questioning? And if we can go into, because we have a little bit more time, what the steps that you are taking to improve the morale to make sure that we keep our coworkers staying where they are, because I think institutional knowledge is something that is so important. So what are we doing to make sure that they stay and are enjoying working for this great government?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Retention is crucial, and it's incredibly important particularly for something as complex as CBRN threats. And we're working in multiple ways. I mentioned my kind of 3 tiers of my morale plan. I won't rehash that, but I will say that we're looking for opportunities to cross-train, to have people work within the different directorates. What's interesting to me is that we've because they came from different organizations, that in some ways they might not have known the other side of the CB and the RN threat. So we're looking at ways to integrate that better. We're doing presentations on what we're doing. We're looking to look for those synergies that were there but hadn't been focused on yet. And so, sir, I think it's professional development. I think it's office development, and it's candidly just getting to know us as people. We lost a lot of that during COVID, and we're trying to find ways to connect in a hybrid environment.
Okay, so I guess we're both confident that the next time Best Places to Work does their rankings will be far better than 430.
Sir, I will say the FEVs are a lagging indicator, and that it could be possible that the FEV scores during my time may come out, after I leave, depending on the election. And so I want to say, I'm not here about FEV scores. I'm here about the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm still confident. I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate the vote of support, and I also share that vote.
All right, my time's expired. Now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I suspect that when we have the security of knowing that people will get a paycheck, that will also have morale to go up, because government should not run from continuing resolution to continuing resolution. We should have the security of people knowing that their government and the full faith and credit of their government will always be protected. So we will continue to fight to make sure that happens, so you're able to do your job even more. So Representative Strong touched on a point that I wanted to go. So Secretary Callahan, can you tell the subcommittee where CWMD is advancing in its biodetection capabilities?
Thank you very much, sir. As I mentioned, BioWatch is a reliable program right now, but we have to improve on it. As Dr. Juan Sherman said, we've got to make sure that we have a shorter time period, if possible, with the same level of standard of clarity and of accuracy. We have looked at many opportunities. I'm happy to talk about BD21, but I'll put that to a side right now because it's an acquisition program. But we're looking at making a series of incremental improvements on environmental biodetection writ large. And that's our focus, rather than kind of to jump to the BD21 moonshot, so to speak. And that's one of the reasons BD21 couldn't scale and it couldn't be operational at this moment. But instead, we're looking at a wide range of technologies, opportunities, and resources to have the BioWatch steady state while we work on incremental improvements in terms of timeliness, response, efficiency, and so on.
Are we keeping up with the bad guys?
We are working our darnest to keep up with the bad guys. As Dr. Juan Sherman said, biodetection at scale is really hard, and it's one of the reasons why BioWatch is the only program that we have right now. But we're engaging our state and local stakeholders to make sure we're meeting their mission and their mark as we look to make these improvements on biodetection. But biodetection is hard. Bioattacks are also hard, I will say, and stop there in this room.
It's an incredible challenge. So those are not trick questions. They're questions that—
Understood, sir.
One, we understand and appreciate the difficult tasks that you have. So we'll begin there. So the questions we ask, we come in peace on how we can better serve you.
Understood,
so you
sir.
can better serve us. So what's your approach? You mentioned stakeholders. What's your approach to collect information, data, and to learn from, and more importantly, teach local stakeholders, and what relationship, and what does that look like?
Yep. So first, our relationship with stakeholders are paramount. That's our crucial element. We are an operational support component, supporting the 5 DHS operational supports, as well as all the state and locals that we've talked about. I have people on my team who communicate with state and locals every day. to make sure we're transparent, we know what's going on, we're communicating. With regard to the GAO recommendations on data, I was thrilled to see that because it's very consistent with my philosophy, is that we have to have metrics, we have to have consistent metrics, and we have to have repeatable processes. We also have the opportunity to learn from each other. One of the things that I witnessed when I went to the Securing the Cities meeting in Miami, which was the one after the chairman came to St. Elizabeth's, is that the state and locals are learning from each other. They're sharing information. They're supporting each other. They're going and saying, this is my best practice. This is how I work. Boston came down to New Orleans to support for Mardi Gras, and New Orleans is going up to support for the marathon next month. And working together and having the information sharing is crucial in order to have this layered defense that we've established.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Dr. Sherman, what has GAO's report found regarding CWMD stakeholder outreach and engagement with SLTT partners?
Yeah. Absolutely. So both with Securing the Cities, as well as actually BioWatch, and also the former Chemical Defense Demonstration Cities Initiative, we had previously found that the communication and engagement with stakeholders, not only at the federal level, but the SLTT partners, was not as robust as it could have been. We have seen strides, which is very positive. There have been a lot of gatherings, meetings, sharing of information, and really, kind of an understanding that one participant in a program can learn from another. We also know in 2022, there was an SLTT engagement strategy that CWMD developed. We made some recommendations on how to improve that, but it was noticeable that they had pulled the strategy together. And so we were pleased to have seen that. Ranking Member, if you'll indulge me, I don't have an answer to the question regarding a blank check, but I will say, since we haven't dabbled in it, something to keep me up at night would be the role of AI, or the potential when it comes to producing CBRN, CBRN threats. That is something that, of course, is part of the executive order. Will be implemented. DHS is going to be developing an analysis to take a look at that issue. GAO is starting to monitor the efforts within that executive order. And so I'm a little less scared at night because I know we're going to take a look at it, but that is an area, of concern moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sherman. My time is up. Mr. Chairman, if you would just indulge me one quick final question for Dr. Wolf. Same question on engagement. As we prepare for the next health security risk, share with us your method or matrix for engagement with other agencies to ensure that we have the best practices in place.
Sure, Ranking Member. I'm from the Northeast, so I'll talk fast on this one. The first, with our other federal partners, we are the supporting agency to ESF8, which is the lead as HHS. And when you're a supporting agency, we need to do a better job. So the last few years of the creation of OHS, we've done a better job of being a solid partner for HHS ASPR and HHS CDC. We also sit on the FEMC, which is the Public Health Emergency Medical Countermeasures Enterprise. That is how the federal interagency decides what medical countermeasures we should develop and invest in, certainly related to Assistant Secretary Callahan's comment about BioWatch, right? We're detecting to treat, detecting to warn. We want to make sure we're leveraging medical countermeasures. Don't want to detect something and then not have a treatment for someone in New Orleans or somewhere else. In terms of state and local, a few things we do is we convene monthly with the fusion centers, and we make sure that health analysts are understanding what's happening in the law enforcement mission. What we find a lot of times is health people tend to be called when the problem is known. So we're making sure that the fusion centers are leveraging their health analysts prior to any issue that arises. The other thing we do is we convene communities along the southwest border and interior communities to talk about challenges they are seeing across the community, whether that is with migrants, whether that is just state and local issues that they're devoting money from one program to another. And the last thing we do is we've got the food security mission. We've done several tabletops, one in the state of Washington, one in Oklahoma. And both of those had good representation from the tribes, which is one of our focal points for 2024, which is, as we know from COVID-19, for example, a lot of focus on Navajo Nation and making sure that we're including, when we say SLTT, that we don't forget the tribal part of our state and locals. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member. I thank the witnesses for their valuable testimony and the members for their questions. The members of the subcommittee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we would ask that the witnesses respond to these in writing. Pursuant to Committee Rule 7D, the hearing record will be open for 10 days. Without objection, this subcommittee stands adjourned. Thank you, sir.
All righty, let me get that stopped. There we go. Okay. Well, yay, we got through one as opposed to the first one we put on. That was tricky. It was tricky. Let's see. Let's just go over just a couple of things they talked about. Mr. Lalota, I believe he said he was from New York, Representative Lalota. He said he's becoming increasingly concerned that we will have another 9/11 like attack. He talked about how Christopher Wray testified in December of 2023 about the blinking lights. He sees blinking lights, which I guess he is FBI code for dangers are coming. And Mr. Lalota said, "Do you believe the office has served as a deterrent to our adversaries in carrying out an attack?" Excuse me. And Ms. Callahan said, "I do believe so." Okay, short, sweet, and to the point. And then he said, "How can you build on your success? What else should we be leveraging?" And she was talking about training and exercises. The first responders are obviously going to be the ones on the ground, and making sure that CWMD gets reauthorized. Mr. Strong also talked about to what extent is BioWatch, which is a program I am assuming to detect bio warfare in operational program, and what plan exists to improve it if it needs it. And Ms. Callahan said it's the only biological detection program that we have right now, and it is very reliable. And then they sort of went into how long does it take to detect something. The sensor collections are every 12 to 24 hours, and then a few hours in the lab, but it kind of cut her off. But it sounded like somebody else testified that it's about 36 hours or so, which seems like an awfully long time to detect a bioweapon. Like, that doesn't seem great. It seems like we should probably be trying to speed that one up a little bit. And then Mr. Strong asked, well, what's the biggest thing DHS can do to improve biodetection? And Dr. Sherman she talked a little bit about how it's really it's a challenging task. And if there's anything out there that can help to expedite the program, that obviously would be wonderful. And CWMD needs to continue to focus on biodefense. So it sounds like they were saying, without really saying, that, yeah, that's an area where we really need to improve our detection skills, and find ways to make that go a little bit faster. A couple of the representatives brought up the electric grid, but I think it was Miss Callahan who finally was just like, look, that's more cyber warfare. That's not really us guys. So I'm going to defer to them on that one. Mr. D'Esposito asked, what steps does CWMD take to coordinate with the intelligence community? And Ms. Callahan said that they work very closely with intelligence to identify the threat, identify the risk, and then communicating with first responders. Then they also sort of got into, well, what about Border Patrol? How closely do you work with them? And she, kind of stated, well, yeah, we work with them quite a lot. Obviously, I think she said they're one of their biggest stakeholders. They supply the radiation monitors and all the training for that type of a situation and chemical warfare when it comes to the Border Patrol. And then there was a really interesting question. In 2022, there was a ranking of best places to work, and CWMD ranked 430 out of 432. Why is morale so low? Ms. Callahan was like, well, retention is crucial. Yeah, it is. But if it's a low morale, we're not going to want to stay. She kind of went into, well, we're working on it in a multiple of ways. We got a 3-tier morale plan. That sounds fun. And we're looking for opportunities to cross-train. They're looking for synergies. Lou even says that's a bunch of baloney. Then she was talking, kind of threw in a bunch of in employment HR style words, professional development, office development, and getting to know us as people. Well, that'll make all the difference. Clearly. It would clearly. Chris Martin is saying it would be nice if that plan would include funding for local agencies to upgrade their communication systems phase 2 and 3 P25, as well as funding for all the NFPA requirements for equipment. The agency is small and with a heavy workload with the entire nation to cover. Yeah, it sounds like they definitely need some more funding, which was, interesting that what was her name? Dr. Sherman, when she was kind of given the opportunity to say, what is it that you need? What do you need from Congress? And she was just kind of like, well, I mean, not much. And the congressman, I can't remember what his name was. I want to say, was it Mr. Sherman? Maybe no, not Dr. Sherman. Dr. Sherman is late. Mr. Strong, maybe can't remember. But anyway, so he was kind of like, yeah, you had like a blank check opportunity right there. And she, oh no, you know what? No, I can talk a little more about it. And she still didn't come out and say, yeah, we need a lot more funding. We need more people. We need this and that. And she kind of missed an opportunity there. Yes, that is Lulu. She is down on the floor right now. She was yelling at the cat, I believe. So Lulu herself is chemical warfare. Nobody knows who CWMDO is. No, I don't. They need General Richardson to help. Yes, she is very good at the we need more money. Send us the dollars, please. Yeah, they need General Richardson needs to be like the spokesperson for any government agency that needs more money. Like we got to get Laura Richardson here. We got to get her in. She's very good at coming right out and saying, well, Congress, yeah, that would be great, but we need more money in order to do that. Thanks so much. I love her. I love her so much because she just says it like it is. All right, guys. So I got a couple of fun things for you to share with you. Does anybody know about Secretary Booty Juice? Have y'all heard? Have you heard about Secretary Booty Juice? Let me show you in case you don't know, because I am going to show a little something from Secretary Booty Juice, but let's see who exactly is Secretary Booty Juice. Here we go.
And now it is my great honor to introduce the President of the United States, President Joe Biden.
Oh, it's about 5 minutes for him to walk out.
Thank you, Secretary Buttigieg.
So that is Secretary Booty Juice just disconnected me. Oh no. Okay. Sorry, guys. Cut out there for a second. But yes, so so President Biden, that's the name of the guy, was trying to figure out how to say Pete Buttigieg's name and called him Secretary Booty Juice. So yeah, Sniffer calls him by it. Yeah. Secretary Booty Juice. Now, we have a little something Secretary Booty Juice said that I have some thoughts on. So let me share that one with you, hopefully without cutting myself off this time. Let me see. Where is it? This is it. Here we go. All right. Let me make sure. Yep. And here we go.
If an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly Black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or it would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices. I don't think we have anything to lose by confronting that simple reality, and I think we have everything to gain by acknowledging it and then dealing with it, which is why the Reconnecting Communities, that $1 billion, is something we want to get to work right away. If an underpass was constructed such that a
Hear it
bus
again.
carrying mostly Black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or it would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
So now we have racist overpasses. Okay. Wow. That's really weird. That obviously, so in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking like, wait a sec, what in the world is this man talking about? So there were people in Secretary Buttigieg's mind that when designing these overpasses said, no, gotta make it lower. We don't want these Black and Puerto Rican kids going to the beach on their bus, make it lower. But the bus is, 8.5 feet tall. Lower. Keep them from going to the beach. Like, what is he talking about? And why make it racial? Like, why make it a racist overpass instead of just saying, hey guys, you know what? We need to get these overpasses rebuilt because the buses can't go under them. Why does it gotta be that it's buses full of Black and Puerto Rican kids, and therefore it's clearly racist? But what in the world are these people thinking? I just say the buses can't fit under the overpass, and therefore we need to redo the overpasses. I think everybody would be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Probably should have, be able to have a bus go under it. Instead of trying to turn it into something like a racist overpass. And now people are concentrating on that. Now I'm sitting here asking, what the heck? Does he really think people who were designing these overpasses were like, you know what, let's make it really racist. Lower it. We don't want those buses going through here. We don't want those people going to the beach. Lower it. No, just say it's not high enough for the buses to get through. Why does it have to be racist? It's so weird. It's so bizarre. Like, what are these people thinking? Hey, Akashi Chris is joining us. How are you, Chris? So nice to see you. Remember what the sniffer said about Black people and voting. Oh God, which time? I mean, he has said, that man has said so many racist things. Oh, hi. Bubby's here to say hello, or at least his butt is. Hi, Bubs. Hold on, I'm trying to keep you guys from getting. Exactly. Show more cat. Let's see. Oh, now he's down. I'm surprised he jumped up here. He's not usually a lap cat, so nice tail. So okay, let me see. And then I think I had. So yeah, that was the racist overpass, or racist bridges. And then I had one other thing. Oh yes, this sheriff. I love this sheriff. Hold on. I gotta show you guys because he's kind of amazing. See if I can get this full screen. Here we go.
As to the person, we don't know which homeowner shot at him. I guess they think that they did something wrong, which they did not. If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. So whoever that was, you're not in trouble. Come see us. We have a gun safety class we put on every other Saturday. And if you take that, you'll shoot a lot better, and hopefully you'll save taxpayers money. As to the person, we don't know which homeowner
That's
shot
so
at him.
amazing. I love Florida. I know. It just does not get any better than that. You have the sheriff saying, yeah, whoever it was that shot him, you're not in trouble. And by the way, we recommend that you shoot people who are breaking into your house. It's better if you do. In fact, we have a gun safety class on Saturdays. We'll teach you to aim better. It'll save taxpayers a lot of money. I love this man so much. That's amazing. Every state in the United States needs to take this stance. I think that's beautiful, and I think it's just the way things should be. So I love this guy so much. I really do. Uh, I saw that yesterday, and that just made my day. It really did. What do you guys think? You think you should be allowed to just shoot whoever tries to come into your house? I know in Ohio, at least I'm pretty sure. I think if Dave is still listening, he can correct me. I'm pretty sure that you can do the same thing here in Ohio. And then there are, I heard yesterday, I think 26 states now, which are constitutional carry states, which is awesome. Which is awesome. We just need, 24 now to go to get to 50. Yes, yes. Dave Hurley said yes. Okay, cool. We can shoot anybody who's trying to break into our house. Guess what's happening? Castle Doctrine. That's right. I love the name of that. So, oh, bye. Hi, actually. I did see you. Sorry, I didn't mean to not say hi. Yeah, I think it's amazing. Florida has a couple sheriffs who make some great comments. Chris said, "It's amazing. I love it. I love it." And like I said, I think every state should take that mindset. It's crazy out there now, so I think we all have to, yes, to kind of consider these things. Everyone was up in arms, no pun, when Texas went no permit carry. Well, too bad, right? It's constitutional right. That's the way it should be. So that's the way it is here. We're constitutional carry here in Ohio. And like I said, 26 states now are constitutional carry. I wonder, do you guys think that the increase, because a lot of Democrats are now buying guns too, do you think that the illegal immigration invasion into this country is leading more people to wanting to own guns? I do. I think it has had that effect. And if not, y'all might want to consider it, everybody, especially those of you who live closer to the border, though now they say every state is a border state. I know we do, so you might want to think about getting something for yourself. But I mean, technically, Ohio. Well, I was asking Dave. I was like, "Are we bordering Canada? Geography is not my strong suit." But yeah, there's a lake in between us and Canada, one of the Great Lakes. It's a small one. You maybe hadn't heard of it. No, it's one of the Great Lakes. But I mean, now we're seeing more people coming across the northern border too, right? And the coastline. They're just coming from every angle now. It's crazy. Guess what didn't happen in Texas when they went constitutional carry? Violent crime didn't go up. No, in fact, it usually tends to go down. Why? Because you might get shot. So I think that's a good incentive to keep people from doing stupid stuff. Snoop says, yes, the invasion is bringing those slow people around. I think so. You know what? It's not good in any way, shape, or form, this invasion. But if it encourages more people to be responsible gun owners, then, and I know Dave would probably argue with me on that particular statement, but, to be gun owners and educate themselves. Let's just say it that way. To educate themselves and be gun owners, then that's not a bad thing. Hey, Ken's Conley, why? On Twitter or on Twitch. Hi, how are you? Is there a way to donate to our organization? There is on YouTube. You can donate to us, and on Twitch, I'll put something in the comments for you guys there. But thank you. That would be nice. That's lovely. Would love to have your support and hope you will continue to join us. And if you do come on YouTube, there's a bunch of us here in the chat, but I will chat with you very quickly on Twitch before I end, and I'll give you something. Let's see. Here in Michigan, you got to get a license from the sheriff for any 2A. Yeah, in Massachusetts, when I was there, it's difficult to get something there as well. I don't know. I didn't have a license there, so I don't know. Now I know Caitlin, my friend Caitlin. Some of you who used to watch me when I was doing the paranormal stuff know Caitlin. Now I know she had a CCW in her class that she took. Sounded amazing. Um, but yeah, they're also a red flag state, which is, no bueno. No bueno. I'll make a Florida trip, I think, feeling frisky. Florida's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. My mom lives in Florida. I've lived in Florida when I was younger. It's a lot of fun. Mass still sounds like it's hunting witches with their gun laws. You aren't kidding. Massachusetts is a very liberal state. Yeah, they are. When you hear all of the crazy, like liberals, like all of the crazy things they say, like in Massachusetts, I could see people going, yeah, that overpass is racist. Absolutely. I mean, that's clearly a racist overpass. I could see them saying something like that. Not everybody. Look, I have some liberal friends in Massachusetts, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. And even they would say, that's stupid. But there's a lot. They're the like suburban granola moms, Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like I lived in a town called Ipswich, which is right near Salem. And I can't tell you how many Black Lives Matters, like, yard signs there were. I think there was maybe one Black family in Ipswich. Like, settle down. Settle down. These people. Yeah. Only the white bridges are racist. Absolutely. Absolutely. Witch. She said witch. LOL. I'm not a witch. I'm your wife. What movie is that from? Come on. I know people know. Caitlin shows that. Yeah, Caitlin's a riot. We love Caitlin. She's great. She's great. She is busy working her new job, but she is wonderful. Oh goodness. I did ask you guys a question. What was it that I just asked you that I wanted your opinion on? Oh, about the Democrats. Do you think that the immigrants, the new immigrant wave is causing more Democrats to buy a gun? Because more Democrats are buying guns now than ever before. How about the Green Bridges and Jeff Bridges? Well, Green Bridges would definitely be liberal bridges as well. In fact, those would probably be socialist bridges. Yes, Chris is saying yes. The Democrats, they're coming to the dark side. It's, what's annoying me? There's a lot of things that annoy me, but what's annoying me right now, lately, most of all, is how Biden, or his administration at least, I don't know if Biden himself has said it, is that they're looking into executive actions to take to secure the border. First and foremost, you know them. You know them because you undid them. So just redo them. Like, don't sit here and say, like, well, we're going to look into what we can do to secure the border. You're very well aware. You took about, I think it was 90 executive actions to just screw it all up. Just undo them all. Go back. It's within your first 100 days. Just go check the ledgers. You can find them. Pretty dang easy. So he'll sit there and say, we're going to look into it. And then they'll come back and be like, no, we're not taking any legislative or not taking any executive action. We need legislative action. Now they're back to, we're going to look at executive action, but we're not making any promises, people. It's pretty crazy. Thoughts on healthcare? Well, in what regards? I used to work in healthcare, so I have a lot of thoughts on healthcare. Healthcare is big business. It absolutely is. But yeah, honestly, and those of you that know me know I am very anti-socialist, but with the amount of taxes that the government is taking, our healthcare should be free. They should be easily able to pay for all of it. I mean, hell, they're giving, of these illegal immigrants free healthcare. Why not give it to us as well? We're paying. We should have it. The amount of taxes that they're taking out of our paychecks, it's absolutely ridiculous. Joe forgot what he undid other than his shoelaces. For real. The invasion is turning a lot of states Republican. Yeah, that is really an interesting kind of trend that we're seeing. I know, especially in Chicago, they're talking about how a lot of people who formerly voted Democrat are saying they're trying to turn Chicago red. They're trying to turn Illinois red. Yeah, in a lot of other states, you're seeing more of a trend. It's almost something that I've noticed is worldwide right now too. Is a lot of places that had gone very liberal, like the pendulum is swinging the other way, and now they're like, well, this has really just kind of fucked everything up. And there's a lot more people voting conservative. There's a lot more conservative leaders that are starting to get elected and coming into play. So it'll be interesting to see if we now sort of have a swing to the conservative side, how many countries are going to go more conservative. Really? Bubby has a lot to say about it. He agrees. He agrees. You see what I did there? Thoughts on healthcare. Maybe Caitlin can come. I love Caitlin. She's just crazy busy and she doesn't have time to do it right now, unfortunately. But yes, we do love Caitlin. Dave Hurley saying if they can forgive student loans, they can buy us a cancer treatment or two. Yeah, for real. For real. Absolutely. Yeah, that is true. There's no counterpoint. Caitlin is the same. She would agree. Yeah. Oh, why is my camera all fuzzy? Hopefully it'll work itself out. You mean the orange man said anything woke turns to shit was right? Yes. That is accurate. That is accurate. Let's see. Ken's Connolly. Why? I don't know why I want to do it like it's an echo. Will Biden steal the 24 election again, you think? What happens if he does? I think he's certainly going to try to. Is he going to be successful? I don't know. There are some people out there that are really looking into election fraud. There is a guy on X. Hold on. I just recently started following him. Let me see if I can find him. What is his name? His name is Richard. Is it Richard? Or Robert? Rich. Hold on. No. What is his name? Dang it. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Let me find this because he's really interesting guy. Rick Weibel. W-E-I. Here, let me pull it up and I'll show you the screen so that way, in case any of you guys are interested in election fraud, you can check him out. He's done a lot of research into it. This is him. Rick Weibel, I think is how you pronounce his last name. So definitely go check him out on X if that's something you're interested in. He has looked into the basically the computer programs that they were using with the different voting machines and the vulnerabilities that are there. And then he also posts other things that other people have talked about. So he has a lot of information on that. So yeah, really good one to check out if that is something that you are interested in. I don't know. I think they're trying everything, and they're even really becoming just blatant about it. Like I know they're trying right now to block RFK from being able to be on many of the ballots. I think he's only in the ballots in one state right now. I want to say it's Utah, maybe. So they're actively trying to block him, which, is absolutely ridiculous. The party that talks about and touts democracy is, the most important thing are the ones that are trying to keep you from having a choice in who you can vote for. But it's like many of the other things they say. They're just full of shit. So in Georgia, there's this guy who revealed voting fraud that Fannie has kept locked up. Yeah, I saw a little something about that. I haven't read into it a lot, so I don't, I can't really say too much on it, but I did see there was something that Fannie had, I think, some information about voter fraud in Georgia that maybe it was in her researching the case for Donald Trump. But I mean, if she did find that and then she still is bringing this case forward, man, she's just the worst. Just remember which party brought us the Klan. True story. Oh my gosh, I got into it on X with a guy. Dave and I we're like just tag teaming this guy who was arguing with us. He said something about how Republicans just, worship the Confederate flag. And I just basically responded, you do know the Confederates were Democrats, right? And he was just so ignorant. And of course, he came back with the same stupid thing that every Democrat who has a big mouth on X comes back with when they have no defense. They say, you're so stupid, you're so uneducated, you're so uninformed. And they just keep repeating that, like I care what he thinks about me. But that's their only defense. That's it. And I noticed the guys, like the Democratic guys, do it to women more than they do to men, because there was Dave, and then there was one other guy who kind of joined in with us who was awesome. I don't know him, but I started following him. He was great. He's a lawyer down in Texas, I think. I was the only one they were calling stupid. And I wasn't saying stupid things. I was saying things that were historically accurate. And I was the only one getting called stupid. So yeah, I was just kind of like, well, I was playing, his own game with him. I was just kind of like, well, that's very, very non-tolerant of you. How misogynistic to only call the woman stupid. But yeah. Same party now says bridges are racist. Right. Apparently, yes. The building of bridges is racist. Because, they got to keep those Black and Puerto Rican kids from going to the beach. Just say the bus can't fit under it. Like, honest to God. Why? Why? Oh. Oh. See what you did there. Okay. I got you. Wow. All right. That's an old Facebook page of mine. My friend and I had. Wow. Okay, that's a throwback. I haven't been on that page in a while. That's crazy. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Let's see. Robert Byrd was a Grand Wizard for. Oh, was he? The Admiral Robert Byrd? Same. Or am I thinking of? No. Am I thinking of Richard Byrd or Robert Byrd? Okay, all my UFO people. Who am I thinking of? Is it the same person? That's pretty crazy. Clinton was at his funeral. I know Biden was friends with Grand Wizard of the KKK too. I can't remember who the guy's name was. Wonder if this is the same party that came up with barefoot in the kitchen. Yeah, probably. My cousin said since the bridge came down, they increased the time of travel by 6 hours. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was wondering, I know in Massachusetts, I've driven through Baltimore. It's not that far, but in Massachusetts, yeah, if say a bridge like that were to go down, it would mess up the traffic. And the traffic is already terrible. So that stinks. Ugh, those poor people. That really sucks. Even worse for the poor people who died. But yes, inconvenienced by traffic, also not great. Not fun. State Senator Robert Byrd. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not the same person I was thinking of. Who am I thinking of? The Admiral? Is it Richard Byrd? The one who flew over Antarctica and said he saw like a hole in the ice. I don't know. Anywho. Anyway, white-hooded Democratic Senator Robert, Hillary's mentor. Wow. Wow. Democrats are a funny breed. Funny breed. Is it Admiral Richard Byrd? Okay, Chris knows who I'm talking about, right? Okay. Well, he's an interesting character too. Wow. Is Bubs really going to try and climb up on this chair? I don't think he's going to be able to make it. It's like this wide up top. He just wants to say hello. What are you doing? Yeah. He responds, he'll chirp, or he'll go like, "Meow, meow, meow." Yeah. What do you think? Whoop. Careful there, buddy. You guys probably can't hear him. He's like, oh, Bubs. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me go over here to Ken's. Let me see. Probably the best Hold on, Kens. Let me find something for you because I said I would. Everybody on YouTube, please talk amongst yourself for uno momento, por favor. Let me see. I thought I had like my Venmo thing set up somewhere, but apparently I don't. Okay. Here it is. Where are you? There you go. Okay. I gotta look and see. Oh. Okay. There we go. Sorry, I was trying to do it quickly. But anywho. My pet used to want his picture taken too. Oh, it's so funny. Bubby used to, when I was sitting over on the couch, he would be able to kind of like just crawl behind me, and sometimes he would just lay down right behind me. But he's cute. Is Bubs my familiar? No, it's just a cat. No. No. Yeah, I don't really do too much, like, as far as sort of very witchy things. To me, it's more of a state of mind. Um, it's like I'm not Wiccan. Wicca is a religion. I'm not Wiccan. I think witchcraft is something that like I started looking into in my 20s, and at this point I've read so much about it and looking into it so much. It's more just a state of mind. It's just basically an understanding of the interconnectedness of everything, right? And that our ability to sort of interact. I'm not one of those people that thinks that we can control the energies around us, but I think that we can um interact with them. And that's really it. And I think I know, for those of you that know Cheryl Costa, she is, in ufology. She did a lot. Cheryl's super interesting. She did a lot of civil rights work in the 60s and then the 80s, about sort of being a witch. And she's much more into the, well, at least she was. Actually, now she and I are very similar. It's more of a mental sort of practice, and it's about, oh my gosh, Bubby, he just wants to be everywhere. Sorry, bumped this. It's more of an understanding of sort of the play of energies in the world. But anyway, I know I am weird. But that's about it. I really don't do anything more than that. I really don't. I think once you've like worked with it for so long, it just becomes more of a mental exercise than it does anything else. But that's okay. How's the weather where I'm at here in Ohio? It's good. It's actually not too bad today. It's sort of gray, but I think let's see, what is the weather here? It is 45, so it's a little cooler than I thought. It wasn't too bad, but yesterday it was was it yesterday or the day before? It was like 67 and sunny. It was beautiful. So, yeah, it's not so bad. Not so bad. I'll take it. It's not raining and cold, so or if I were in Massachusetts, probably snowing. So, it's not as warm as when we were in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, but it's okay. I'll take it. It's going to start warming up pretty soon here. So, all right, let the cat pick the outro song again. I know when I got kicked out, I had my outro song all lined up, but Snow is racist. Clearly. All right, guys. So tomorrow we are going to have another show at 2 p.m. I'm kind of going back and forth between a couple of them, so I'm not going to say just yet, but I will have it up by the latest tomorrow morning. So hopefully you can join us. But like I said, it should be about 2 p.m. Eastern again. Anyway, what's that dang big antenna on your neighbor's house? Ham radio. What? 67 and sunny sounds like California drought. I know. I wish it was warmer, but it'll get very warm soon. So, okay. All right, guys, let me get a song to take us out on, and I will see you tomorrow. So hold on just a second. What's the one I had? I think I had this one set up to go. All right. Hopefully it won't come in too loud, but I will turn it down right away. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
You down on the softly spoken words and notions that delight, but you're right down the path I know too well. You're right, you're right, but in my head there's a picture of me finding who I am and who I should be. I've lost myself in insanity. Now I'm finally free. Slow me down, though the past is broken. Hope is open and new bright, but you're right down the path I know too well. You're right, but in my head there's a picture of me finding who I am and who I should be. I've lost myself in insanity. I'm out on a limb, now I'm finally free. But in my head there's a picture of me finding who I am and who I should be. I've lost myself in the insanity. I'm out, now I'm finally free. I'm out on a limb, and in my head I'm out on a limb, and in my head I'm out on a limb, and in my head I'm out on a limb. I've lost myself.